Welcome back to the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that bell and subscribe button. Also, audio versions of the show are available through Spotify. And if you'd like to contact the show, we're on Twitter at Sessions Shankly, or you'll get us over on the upper tier on Facebook and Instagram. Joining me for a quick Liverpool versus Arsenal preview, my man on these previews, Darren. How are we, Darren?
Good evening, Niall. How are you, my old buddy?
Not too bad. I searched high and low for an Arsenal fan. They're not easy to find.
They're not. They're really not. Me old man was an Arsenal fan, but he left the building in January, so we can't even dig him up for this one, pal, unfortunately. But yeah, Arsenal have been on a steady decline over the last few years, meaning that, you know, jersey sales and players and stuff like that, they haven't been too exciting. So it's weeded out quite a lot of them, hasn't it?
But it's an interesting one at the moment because they've bounced back big time. But before we get into it, this is your tea time, your 5:30 Saturday evening match, Liverpool versus Arsenal under the lights in Anfield, because we know at that stage it's going to be dark. This is kind of Klopp versus Arteta. Safe to say Arsenal are the form team at the moment. Liverpool kind of struggling a little bit, a bit of a dip in form, let's say. But Arsenal on the rise again, playing some decent football at the moment, keeping clean sheets and putting together a good string of results. Overall thoughts before we get into the detail on it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game, you know. I expect it to be exciting and stuff like that. I think you're right. This is maybe a little more of a test for Arteta. While they've been on a good run, they haven't beaten anyone of note, really. You know, they've picked up victories and stuff like that, but they haven't necessarily beaten any of the big teams where you go, well, that's a big shock, you know. This is the first chance they've had at it since the first three games where they were on nil point after three games, you know.
Yeah, I suppose considering where they were, though, it is a good run regardless of the fixtures.
Absolutely.
And looking at the way the Premier League has gone this year so far, there's no easy fixtures out there at the moment, really, is there? The way things
no, you're 100% right, and I think I really am warming to what Arteta's starting to do there at Arsenal, you know. And we've spoken about it before from a United point of view, where, you know, goals will win you games, but clean sheets will win you league titles, and he's addressed part of this problem. Now, I don't necessarily think that it's all fixed and it's all rosy in the garden yet, but I think they're making strides in the right direction. You know, that they've got, now we could kind of name their back four week to week, provided everyone was fit. You know, you're going to get Tomiyasu, you're going to get Ben White, you're going to get Gabriel, and you're going to get Kieran Tierney and Ramsdale behind them. For quite a while at Arsenal, you couldn't do that, you know. And he's got the boy White. We all scoffed a little bit at the price and stuff like that in the summertime, but he doesn't dictate the price. That's down to the two clubs. But he has looked, you know, very, very steady for Arsenal. He has looked like he's brought them in that centre-back position to a new level. And I think he's a perfect foil for the boy Gabriel, because I do like the boy Gabriel. I just think at times he can be a little bit rash. You know, there's a little bit of that Brazilian centre-back syndrome he's got going on, where I can jockey a guy or I can two-foot him, and you're like, just jockey. Nah, he two-foot him. You know, it can be rash at times, you know.
It's that kind of David Luiz effect, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But also, you're looking at it as well, and I suppose the insertion of Ramsdale into the team as well was a huge decision to take Leno out and put Ramsdale in. And I suppose we're having a really good keeper like Ramsdale there behind you will give you that bit of confidence as well. That, like, even if something does slip by, there's a chance Ramsdale will do the business for you anyway.
Well, I mean, just look at some of the saves he's pulled off over the last 4 to 6 weeks. He really has been phenomenal for them. The free kick a couple of weeks ago was that was at Brighton. Yeah. Like, that was ridiculous. You know, really, really was. In the game where Spurs come back at them a little bit, he makes a couple of good saves as well towards the end to keep them 3-2 ahead. And yeah, he's really done well for them. I probably think they maybe haven't shown me enough going forward yet. They still look at times a little bit toothless, although the play to a certain point is quite good. I think there's a little lack of cutting edge, you know, and final pass. Again, I think it's probably, you know, at the higher end of the pitch, you're probably missing something for me, you know. Like, I like the boy Saka, I like the boy Smith Rowe. I think Aubameyang's going to play, but I think I'd like to maybe see someone else in that number 10 or in that in behind the striker role rather than Lacazette, you know. And I think Odegaard had struggled a little bit this season so far, you know. He hasn't kind of hit the straps really.
Yeah. Having said that, now that Lacazette has come in, he's done well. Like, he's looked very good at times.
He's done okay in spells, I think. For the last couple of years, I kind of fully expected him to leave Arsenal. You know, he was a bit part player and stuff like that. And, you know, we came with this massive, massive expectation because he was scoring goals for fun in France at Lyon there, and you just thought he was going to come in. And he's never really hit the heights that we kind of expected of him. At Arsenal or in general, even, you know, like, it's been a long time even since he was around a French national squad. You know what I mean?
I think part of that is much to say about the upheaval that was at Arsenal as it was about Lacazette himself as well, because they've been transitioning now for a long time.
They absolutely have. You know, since Wenger left, basically, haven't they? You know, they've been on that, and even towards the end of Wenger, it got a little bit like things had gone at United where Ferguson had stopped building for the future and it was all about the now and the yesterday rather than tomorrow, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think from a Liverpool point of view, and I know we spoke about this during the week as well on the Premier League preview, it seems to have come out that maybe there's more injured than maybe we think.
Yeah, well, you've led me into that there now. I'm going to give you some updated team news here now, starting with Liverpool. Obviously, James Milner's out with a hamstring. Keita's out with a thigh injury. Joe Gomez is out with a calf injury. Sadio Mane picked up an injury on international duty, but he's back in training. I've seen him back in training and stuff like that, so he looks like he's good to go. Henderson had picked up an injury as well, but I think he'll hopefully make it as well. He'll be back in. Robbo came back with a tight hamstring, so it's a precaution really. But I think they'll probably rest him and they'll throw in Tsimikas, to be honest. And I think that wouldn't be a bad shout. I think Robbo, I think he's susceptible. They don't want to niggle that injury because he just looks tired. He's played a lot of football over the last, say, 6 to 12 months, so it'd be no harm to give him a break out of the team. Firmino was ruled out with a hamstring, and of course Harvey Elliott is on the he's still working on the ankle, obviously. So, but he looks like he's back running and stuff like that. So he could be good to go sooner rather than later. And obviously Curtis Jones is still ruled out with the eye problem, still recovering there. In terms of Arsenal, Xhaka is obviously out with the knee injury. Partey has a muscle injury, but they think he's going to make it. And Kolasinac, he's picked up a nasty injury on international duty, so he's ruled out. But they're the only concerns for Arsenal at the moment. So,
and I mean, I think with Kolasinac and who was the first Arsenal player? Xhaka. I don't think you want them in the team anyway. You know, I think Partey is the only one of those three that I would be happy enough to say I want to give this guy a. You know, like the Xhaka for me doesn't get near the squad if both Partey and Sammy Lokonga are fit and ready to go. And then you look the last day, and the man of the match they had was Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who had played in the centre. And he did a super game in centre midfield, which he also did in the Community Shield last season when he got man of the match against City and Arsenal turned him over.
Yeah.
So he's got ability in there as well, you know. I like the boy Sammy Lokonga. I really like the boy Thomas Partey, although I think he needs to sort this injury thing out, because every time we get a run of games and he starts looking like he's something, you know, we hit this injury wall, and from an Arsenal point of view, it's got to be
very difficult from a planning point of view, isn't it?
Has to be. Like Liverpool have a big list there as well, you know. I know you've probably not got lots of maybe the starting 11, which is, you know, you've a couple, obviously. You've Robbo and you've maybe Henderson in there and Bobby. But, like, for me, Liverpool, like, you know, every week to week, you can name the team off, you know, who's going to start like that. There's a couple of injuries in there, but it's not something they couldn't maybe manage But I do think maybe that midfield position is starting to get a bit light, is it?
I don't know whether it's a bit light or whether you're not able to play the blend that you would like to play. I think there's midfielders there that I think can go out on their day and they can do a job for us. But I don't think, you know, as I said before, if we don't have Fabinho in the team, it's a different situation.
Yeah.
You know, Keita gives us that bit of positivity going forward and stuff like that bit of creativity and stuff like that. And of course, Jordan always does that sort of anchoring kind of role as well and supporting the front men, but also holding that kind of in-between position where he gives us that bit of defensive cover as well. So I think the midfield for me so far this season has been the biggest concern, because I think we've played so many different midfields at this stage. There hasn't been a lot of stability in there, and that's really been a concern. But if you look at the let's look at the potential starting 11s. Obviously for Arsenal, you've got Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Tavares, Maitland-Niles, Sambi, Smith-Rowe, Saka, Aubameyang, and Lacazette. That's what the possible lineup is, and that's what I would potentially expect them to go with. In terms of Liverpool, you're looking at Alisson. I don't think it will be Robertson. I don't think he'll risk him. I think he'll go with Tsimikas. But the talk is Robertson, but I'd be surprised if they did. Van Dijk, I think this game is tailor-made for Konate to come back in. I think his strength in there against the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette, I think, will be vital.
And his pace, he covers the ground extremely well. Yeah. Where we know Matip can get caught a little bit and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, I think Trent is nailed on. I think he had a good time with the England team while he was away as well, and I think he's now become the most creative player or something like that. I was reading the other day in Premier League history or something like that. So, Fabinho obviously in the anchor role there, shadowing the back four. Thiago, Ox, Salah, Jota, and Mane. So that's the starting 11. So that's a. In fairness, that's a decent starting 11 there. Again,
it's decent, but my big worry for them is Thiago and Ox is just
midfield,
way miles away from where they want to be. Yeah. You know, like I think if everybody's fit and well and healthy, the two boys are, you know, propping up either side of the bench.
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, it's
well, you'd expect Ox would want to do a number against his old club, wouldn't he?
He would, absolutely. I mean, show me someone who doesn't want to do a job against our old team, you know.
And we're due a big performance off Thiago at this stage, aren't we?
I don't know, man. I just think it's. I don't know whether it's gone past a point of no return for Thiago. Like it's, you know, it's been even when we've seen him. I know we haven't maybe seen him enough of him, but the level of what we expected from in comparison to the level of what we've seen is.
Yeah, but he's been unlucky with COVID and with injuries as well, and we have to.
He has, but and I don't know whether sometimes, you know, you just need to bite the bullet and go, I need a fresh start here. This isn't working for me. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened from either side, where Liverpool went, you know what, we need to go in a different direction here. He's taking a spot that maybe somebody else could fill, and stuff like that. I mean, you've got him on contract, so. He's potentially value, you know. He's there's a bit of value there. Like, could you maybe get him out to Barcelona, and you know, get in a reasonable sort of a transfer fee for him that you could then go and reinvest in someone.
I suppose the problem for him as well is even when he is fit, you know, he struggles to get into that midfield, because it looks like from Klopp's point of view, he's happy to go with Jordan, Fabinho, and Keita if Keita's fit. But it's that conundrum there. If Keita can hold his fitness, if he doesn't hold his fitness, obviously Curtis got injured as well, who would be an up and coming player, of course. And then you have the other option then is Thiago. But you've got Thiago, who was kind of, when he's been in the team, has kind of flattered a little bit to deceive. You've got Keita, who looks really good when he's in the team, but picks up knocks.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got Curtis, who's been really unlucky with this eye injury, but also his form prior to that was a little bit iffy. He always has these moments occasionally where he pops up, but I do like his positivity on the ball.
I like Jones, forward. I have to say. Yeah. I really do like Jones. I think he's a good footballer. I think, like you're saying, he tries to play in the front foot. You know, he's got good tempo about him. He has an eye for a pass. He has an eye for a goal. I like the kid, I have to say. I think obviously he needs to sort out the eye issue, But I mean, for me, like I would be looking at Jones and Harvey Elliott and saying, like, these are going to be 2 of my 3 for the next 5 to 6 years because they're going to start hitting their straps and their prime soon enough,
Yeah.
But I think with Thiago, like, if you're saying, if you look at what we've seen from Thiago, I think he's been so far away from, getting to that level for Liverpool that I suppose Klopp at this stage has kind of thought, you know what, I can't trust this guy in the big occasions. And if I can't trust him, he then becomes a bit part player because, as we know, Klopp likes to work with a very small kind of starting group. 11 and coaching group and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know whether his days could be numbered at Anfield, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be shocked to see him leave in the summertime.
Yeah, well, recent form will tell you it's going to be a belter of a game anyway, because Arsenal are banging form with 4 wins on a draw. Liverpool obviously is 2 draws, 2 wins on a loss. So we're coming off the back of a poor result against West Ham, which was as much about the goalkeeping as it was about anything. But still, in terms of our performance wasn't where it should be. Whereas Arsenal at the moment are kind of on the ascend at the moment in terms of coming up the table and stuff like that. And they're putting in really good performance. Again, as you said, it might be a lower level kind of opposition and stuff like that, but still you have to go out and win those games.
Absolutely.
If you look at the head-to-heads is an interesting one because it's 10 wins for Liverpool, 8 draws and 8 wins for Arsenal. But you're going back a long time there. If you look in recent history, Liverpool have been quite dominant in the last few years against Arsenal.
I think obviously with Liverpool being so set up so offensively and playing on the front foot the way they have, and Arsenal being so poor defensively over the last few years, these games were tailor-made for you guys because you guys knew you were going to create enough chances that Arsenal were going to find it very difficult to stay in the game. I would still fancy Liverpool heavily for this game, because I don't think Arsenal are as potent as maybe they need to be or they could be at this stage. And I think, they've done okay defensively, but I think, again, they've done okay with limited opposition, let's say.
So when you're coming up against then top 4 or top 5, it's a different story. It's a 100%. Proper test.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's where not where they'll still stumble, but that's where they'll find it more difficult. I would think this will be comfortable enough for Liverpool. We obviously spoke in the Premier League preview, and I think I said 3-1 Liverpool, and I think that'll be, I think that'll come to fruition, and I think there's only so many of these games that Ramsdale can have, and I just don't think you can keep it going to that, to that extent, week after week after week in that position where you're, the last line, pulling out of the fire,
Yeah, it's a kind of a bit like the Gea, isn't it? You can be man of the match for so many weeks, but eventually it'll catch up on you, You're not going to be man of the match every week.
No.
I'm thinking 3-1 Liverpool, but I think Arsenal are banging form. I think there's a lot of positivity around it at the moment. I think the fan base is starting to see what Arteta's trying to do, so they're sort of getting behind him a bit more. So I think they're coming to us in a rich vein of form, even though it was lesser opposition, if you like. So, but I think winning is a habit.
Winning's a habit, and like you can build confidence winning games of football. And I mean that's the thing for me that maybe United are missing, at the minute is just stringing 2, 3, 4, 5 victories together. Because when Ollie did come in initially, and we had that new manager bounce. And we started going on him. I think we won the first 8 when he came in, or we were 8 unbeaten, and the football we played was pretty good, but it was based upon the confidence we had built from, going on that run. And then it was all of a sudden when we lost the game, lads looked at each other and went, "Well, what are we doing here?" So you've got to be careful with a team like Arsenal because they can ride the crest of that wave and cause trouble on Saturday, And I wouldn't like to. If I was a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't like to see them get an early goal because I just think that could get their tails up even more, I think you'd be looking to quieten these boys down early on and try and nick a goal in the first 20 minutes and then feel your way into the game from there and try and get a pattern of play and stuff like that, Yeah,
and it begins a tough run of fixtures as well for Arsenal. I think Arsenal have United then. Is it United the following week or the week after?
Yeah, it's one of them, but I don't think that's going to be too tough for them. Let's be honest, the way we're playing at the minute.
Yeah, but still, it's still a match that you would expect. It's going to be. It's tougher than if you're playing a Norwich or or is it? Just staying quiet. I'm predicting 3-1 as well. I'm hoping Mo gets back on the score sheet again. But we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a belter of a game. But it's a huge game for both clubs because it's an opportunity for Arsenal to lay down a marker in terms of that top 6. And it's very iffy time at the moment for Liverpool with a couple of interesting results that have happened. So they need to get back to winning ways again to cement that position in the top 4 and stuff like that. And also stay within the title race, depending on what happens earlier on in the day.
And I think the nice thing for Liverpool is they've had a little bit of an off period, but they're not miles out of where they want to be, and that a couple of wins, if Liverpool strung 3 wins in a row together right now, I think they'd be right at it again.
They're banging the mix, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where, when you're a good team and when you're going in the right direction and stuff like that, I think even when you drop points and stuff like that, you can get lucky. You kind of created that little bit of luck where, on the day someone else might drop a few points and you go, right, and we're still there. We're still within touching distance and we can strike when we need to,
Yeah. Absolutely, and the pressure could mount. I mean, depending on what happens in the lunchtime game with Leicester and Chelsea, that could dictate a lot of stuff as well, and add that extra bit of pressure as well. Because the last thing we want to do is go into an evening game against Arsenal and be 7 points behind, relying on having to get that win to stay in the picture.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But this has been your Liverpool versus Arsenal preview on the Shankly Sessions, brought to you by the Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube. As always, head over there and support all our shows. Spotify for audio versions of the show. And we will talk to you again real soon. Cheers, bud.
Thanks, man.